The following content has been provided by New St. Andrews College in Moscow, Idaho. For more information, visit us online at nsa.edu.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison, that's right.
It's another What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic,
I'm Becca Merkel.
and we're back.
But don't be misled, Rachel's texting.
Well, I might be. I actually
She's like beeping away over there going, go ahead, push start, it's fine.
It's fine.
I
I'm
just
totally
doubt her abilities.
mid-texting conversation.
I'm
No,
turning off my ringer, how about you?
I'll do it. Turn it off.
Fine.
Turn it off. Now we'll focus.
Now we're...
I'm wondering at what point in the making of the mac and cheese that's happening in the house, they're making homemade mac and
Are
cheese.
they?
I'm wondering at what point someone's going to start desperately waving at me out the window with
today
like
we're
information we don't have
in
about
front
what we're
of
doing.
Rachel's house, but we're kind of lurking behind the laurel bush, so we might be
A little bit.
somewhat out of
Look,
sight.
someone's in the
No,
window.
they're looking. They're looking. They're making mac and cheese. I should be home making something because we have to go to the last home volleyball games tonight, which
So
means
fun. Mm-hmm.
dinner should be eaten in the stands, but we'll see if I have time to pull it off. I was going to whip something up, but
Maybe not now.
maybe we'll just tube it and eat a hot dog when we get there, but I don't think so. We'll see.
That is one way to tube it. So, hot dogs actually. This is a funny thing I can tell you about hot dogs. Hot dogs.
Please enlighten us with funny tidbits about hot dogs.
It is. It's actually connected to a deeper podcasty like subject.
Okay, what?
you believe it?
Tell me.
Well, so my husband is from Chicago area, and now Becca's texting. As soon as I start talking, she whips out her phone and starts doing something else. Nothing makes you feel quite as lonely as podcasting all by yourself.
Here's the thing. Suddenly, speaking of hot dogs, I was like, wait, am I running the concession booth tonight? Because I might be the one making the hot dogs. I'm not sure. I'm just checking,
If
guys.
so, you're probably late already.
Luckily for all of us, I am not running the concession booth.
Okay, so this is the thing
I'm
about
back.
hot dogs. Back when I had this moment where I was first being interested in food and making food and presenting food and catering food and
What moment was
reading
this?
Martha Stewart. Oh,
High school, college, marriage, what is it?
college, high school,
Okay.
late high school,
Yeah,
and college.
Yeah.
So, I was just getting into catering and food presentation and like reading the Martha Stewarts before there was really the internet. So you felt like you found out these things really differently. Like,
And we felt like we must
you
save
had to wait.
the article.
Yeah, I remember cutting out articles that had nothing to do with my life now, thinking, but what if at some point in the future I have a marble countertop and don't know how to clean it?
One time,
What then?
One time I was inspired to copy down like a champagne punch recipe when I was probably like 13. You know, because
You're like, this knowledge will be lost forever if I don't somehow treasure it. Now we're like, too much information. Like, the information never stops. So you just are like, shut up with the punch recipes. I don't need it. If I need it, I'll go looking.
I will be able to access it.
Yeah, but this was before then. So when the Martha Stewarts came, you had to hang tight onto what you might want from the Martha Stewart. So
you might need to have a binder with
this was
clear
I
plastic
did.
sleeves.
That's exactly what I had.
That's what I
and
had
in
too.
my binder, I had the kinds of recipes that I would have were recipes like individual lemon souffles that were baked inside of the Meyer lemon rind.
Of course they were.
Yeah, and they were lovely. I mean, like, could you think of anything more beautiful? Because
does sound pretty rad.
of course, these Meyer lemons would have had a leaf attached because that's how fresh this stuff is.
Because you pulled it right off the tree.
And when you live in northern Idaho, of course, you have access to lemons with the leaves on them still all the time. Yeah, so it's
Unless
super
you don't
relevant.
know the geography, let me just
We don't
throw in,
have that.
There's no lemon.
No. So the point is that this was irrelevant to my life and very fussy. And I was in a phase where the things I made, it was great. I was learning a ton. I was making all kinds of stuff. But I was developing my own style, right? So I had developed, and this phase of my life, I would not have let my name or reputation be sullied with a hot dog.
Oh, yeah, no.
Like, a hot dog
No.
was like an unmentionable thing I would not participate in. Like, you might as well start talking about chili mac or pump cheese, right? Like, these were things that were not on my aesthetic, not accepted by me.
No.
Now, I don't mean by that I would have gone and been rude to people about it. I just had my own standards.
You wouldn't have thrown a dinner party involving a hot dog.
Never. But then what happened is I had time to really shape my own persona in some ways before I met my husband, right? So I was pursuing this life of things that are very domestic and, like I was working on cooking and all. I love that.
Yeah.
And my husband loves that.
And it's kind of like, let's keep the standards high.
Let's all be elegant.
Let's try and have some class.
Keep it, right? Well, then, of course, my husband, who's fabulous, grew up in West Chicago and managed a Chicago foods restaurant for a time. So the Chicago, in case you don't know, the Chicago hot dog is a thing. That's a thing. So he not only embraces the hot dog of life, but he embraces it
Hard.
with absolutely no
irony.
No, not at all. He's just like, this is absolutely the righteous path.
But
his
here's the
approach.
thing. I need to interject that I despise all hot dogs. Like, despise them. Except for when Luke made us those Chicago hot dogs.
They're delicious.
They are ridiculously
They're
good.
delicious, but I had to come around to being willing to eat a hot dog.
It is like the only hot dog that I could actually really
be pleased
enjoy.
to eat. Yes.
It's good
It is
stuff.
a delicious hot dog. But this is the thing, is it was a hot dog. And that was enough to put me off my game that this is a hot dog. So the Lord custom made a husband for me who not only could eat a hot dog upon occasions, but had a lot of enthusiasm for the hot dog life. Like, and not just like, it's funny because it's not just hot dogs, and we actually don't even eat those very often. So I'm not like, every once in a blue moon we actually bother to go get the Vienna beef. Vienna beef franks.
For all the people who are not from Chicago, to just say,
okay, well, if you are from
good.
Chicago, you have to hear my rendition of it, which you never know, I might mess something up.
If you are from Chicago, just tune out.
It's a Vienna beef, an all beef hot dog, which is specifically not just made with all beef, it's made with all bowl. It's made with
Really?
Yeah, and it's only like 2 cuts. It's not one of these things it's not pink and puffy. It's not that kind of hot dog.
No.
It pulls, I think it's like brisket and one other cut only of the bowls. Like, that's how much they care about the flavor profile of this thing.
Okay.
And the mysterious secret spices or whatever that's in it.
Yeah.
And then the word...
I'm just going to say, basically, this is the Meyer lemon souffle of hot dogs.
Yeah, of the hot dog world.
Of the hot dog genre,
but then
that's
it goes,
totally it.
Then it's specifically a Mary Rosen bun that has poppy seeds on it. So it's a poppy seed bun and an all beef hot dog. Then the toppings, allegedly, this came to Chicago when the World's Fair was there. So it was late 1800s, right? So when that happened, so the thing is that like every different people group of Chicago added a topping. Like, hot dogs were a new thing,
Sure.
So, and it was but the toppings of a Chicago hot dog, there's no ketchup involved. None of the people groups of Chicago brought ketchup to this game. It is mustard and relish, but the relish is like electric green, like eerie, creepy green.
Yeah.
Mustard and relish, and then there's onions, tomato wedges, there's a pickle spear, sport peppers, and celery salt.
Yeah. And
cucumbers. I left out cucumbers.
And it's stupidly good.
It is delicious. It's also called, if you get it with everything on it, it's also called a walk through the garden, because it's mostly like the hot dog is at the bottom of this delicious pile of other things.
It is amazing.
It's good.
And I am a person that really can't cope with a hot dog.
God did not give Becca the husband that makes her embrace hot dogs.
Well,
he
does
in his own way.
We did have to eat Hamburger Helper once, just
on the principle of the thing.
On the principle of the thing,
yeah.
Once.
Well, my point was simply that it was good for me to have to think in terms of, and I haven't done this in a long time, but we've done events with these hot dogs. Like, I've moved into embracing it such that we would make Chicago hot dogs and do this.
I have to say, I am onto something when I say it is the Meyer lemon souffle of hot dogs, because you actually wouldn't.
Maybe, but Luke is not above, like, he enjoys the
but
Chicago hot dog.
you wouldn't do an event where you just handed somebody a little old hot dog.
A puffy pink one?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
No, because God hasn't asked that much of me yet. Except for when I have to work in the concession stand, which I have had to do, but that's not me. Though, that's not me throwing an event.
And I really embrace that sort of a hot dog when you're sitting in the stands watching volleyball. It's awesome. It's
I
great.
think it made me come. It came
totally
up in
great.
the questions of your talk at the. I thought of this when we were in Texas, because in the questions of your talk about ways that you glorify things that your husband and that was one thing that came to my mind is, although the Chicago hot dog's pretty glorious by itself, I still have had to throw myself behind how can I make this a fun party. And I remember doing it sometime with like the big bulb lights but with red lights.
Oh yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, it's like a really fun, like, we're going to do this. But that was something that was, and my husband has this commitment to, like the random crackers.
He has a commitment, though, to just, like, trying out all
That's
the
what
food.
it is. He's like, somebody put a lot of effort into this.
He's not a person who will only eat hot dogs and will never eat anything nicer than a hot dog.
No,
it's like, he's not that at all. He's a very adventurous food
Yes, but he
guy.
Also just loves to... He likes to experience what people have been up to. So if there's like a regional cuisine that sounds hideous, he will nonetheless figure it out if it was,
Yeah.
Well, like we just went to that Mexican place that had all of the pork cheek and
that
the
was great.
tongue
tacos
I
didn't
and
eat
things.
that part, but the tacos were amazing.
No, but I knew that it would be having a different experience if I was there with my husband. He would have been like, all right now.
And see,
Now we're
there's
here.
all of these regional things that, like, you hear about it and you just think, good heavens.
Yeah.
What is going on with that? Like, isn't there some kind of Midwestern... Okay, all you people who are from the Midwest, maybe I'm going to butcher this.
Answer her this.
Isn't there kind of a Midwestern something or other that's like a cookie salad or something? Like, it's some kind of a cool... Yeah? People, you're gonna have to enlighten me. It's like, it's a salad, but it involves like Cool Whip and hunks of cookie or something.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
Iceberg?
No, it's the salad. As far as I can make out, there's no salad involved in it. It's like,
well, I'm relieved because I'm picturing on a bed of greens, Cool Whip and cookies.
all right, Midwesterners.
Answer
You're
us
gonna
that.
have to tell me about it, because that's one that I've not been able to quite
I
get
guess
my
the
head
thing
around.
that I was thinking is like, sometimes your husband comes into the marriage with something that he really embraces. Like, where he's like, what I love is that I grew up with an all blue Christmas tree. Luke did not grow up with an all blue Christmas tree. This has not been my cross to bear, but I've known like that kind of thing where your husband's like, this is what I love, and you'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, really? And those are the things that I think wives, it can have such a big impact on your life for the good of everyone. If you just get on board, like, are you having a good time texting?
No, I'm just telling you that it involves, Rachel, mandarin oranges, whipped cream, vanilla pudding, cookies crumbled up,
Which cookies?
fudge striped shortbread cookies crunched up, and buttermilk. But I don't know what you're going to do with the buttermilk. But anyway, okay, I'm just saying I didn't
Becca
hallucinate
couldn't wait.
that.
She was
I
so
know,
excited
I'm like,
she couldn't wait for our
if
listeners
I needed
to tell.
issue a correction, I needed to do
Yeah,
it now.
I
Because what
get
if
it.
I dreamed that?
Yeah,
You
that
know?
would be weird. So, anyways, the point is, there's a lot of turf under the category of respecting your husband that should not be controversial.
Yeah.
There is some things that is understandably difficult. Like, there are times that is a complicated question of like, how do I respect him and submit to him and some of these things.
Yeah.
But there is a huge swath of life that is like, do you not care about football, but your husband really loves it?
Yeah,
And
then
it's
get
like,
behind it.
well, then be that person that plans the snacks and whoops the
become
kids up
the
about this is
coolest-
our team.
Yeah.
This is your
you
daddy's
be the
favorite
person
team.
that throws
and we're,
the best tailgate parties
you
of
be
all
this.
of them.
You just go ahead and step it up. Or rather than that, you just be the person that does the thing that would most bless your husband.
Exactly.
What would be that? And how can I get on board with this? And what can I do? And there's huge amounts of territory where you could be really blessing your husband and your children and your whole family that is not in any way complicated.
And it's not trying to lead them along and turn them into something that they're not.
Right, it's not like, oh, I don't want to submit to him about, whatever. I don't know. There's things that really do involve more questions and more issues.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so much territory where you could be putting checks in the bank.
Yeah.
That it's like you can be doing that. Like, don't start with the hard cases. Start with all of the real basic level. If he wants an all blue Christmas tree, or get behind the all blue Christmas tree.
He really doesn't love it when you're all glammed up. Maybe he likes it more when you have your hair in a ponytail. Well, that's an easy fix, but that's a point of tension for a number of people. It's like, no, I like it better when I'm wearing glittery heels, and he doesn't like it that much.
Why don't you buy yourself a pair of Birkenstocks?
Oh.
Like, how dare you suggest that?
Yeah, but this can cause tension,
Yeah, and those are the things that I just think, just do it.
Just figure out a way to actually
and just
do it well.
see how God blesses that.
Yeah.
Like, just see how God, gives back to you through those obedience points, because he will. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to go nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
What was the thing that we said somebody asked us about that we need to talk about?
Was it raising boys?
Oh, right. Raising
boys.
But I feel like we've talked about that some, and I'm not sure. Didn't I talk about having to alpha dog, say...
Yeah, but that's raising a toddler. And you have to alpha dog them even if they're a girl. So
that's the truth.
Basically, you just alpha dog the toddlers. But I do think one thing that is important is, like, on the subject of, like, honoring and respecting your husband. One thing Dad has always taught is you can infer from the fact that God says wives respect your husbands and husbands love your wives. You can infer from that husbands need respect and wives need love.
Right.
You can also sort of infer that we needed the reminder. Like, women are naturally good at loving.
We're naturally good at criticizing also.
We are not as good at just naturally at respect, but clearly that's something that husbands need. But I would just add that it is something that sons need. And so that is the fuel that fills up the tank, is respect. And so mothers, I think, can tend to want to be smothery, cuddly, like, and of course a son needs love from his mother. Like, of course he does. But he really needs respect. And so I would just tell moms to, from the time your boys are tiny, respect.
Absolutely.
Give them respect. When they're good at something, tell them, I am so impressed with how good you are at.
Right.
And
we
it
do
can
need
be
to
little
throw
stuff.
in not being the lost all sense of perspective respect.
No. Like, don't tell them that they are
the best in the universe.
The president, if they're not. But I just mean...
No, but respect. One of the things that I do with my boys, anyways, is when I'm praying with them. Like when I pray with them, that I thank God for giving me a son who stands tall and who, like where I respect them in how I thank God for them, and that I respect them in just a little, Some of it is respect in the future. Like, sometimes I tease him about when I'm the little short lady, will you still give me hugs? And, like, where we're talking about who you're going to be and how, how God is making you that way. But when they are little, starting with toddlers, when I have big battles with Moses or my other sons, when we have that kind of thing, when they do obey me, when I say, hey, come here, and they come right away. Make a big deal about it, like when we've been working on that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I try to do is remember to tell everyone at the dinner table about it. So I will say, like, we have to tell Daddy about what a good job Moses did today when he obeyed Mama the first time.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
when I said, don't do that, come here, and he
Yeah.
turned around, he came, and then all the kids will be
Yeah.
impressed with him, and we cheer
Yeah.
him on that way. And those are like, that goes so far with little
Yep.
kids because they want to please you, and
Yep.
sometimes it's so easy to let your kids slip into this place where all you do is negatively like,
Yep.
stop doing that, don't do that, what's your problem,
Or
instead
parents
of,
are worried about making them proud. Like, they won't praise
oh
them.
yeah, safety first, don't praise
don't
your
make
kid.
them proud. It's like, oh, just turn them into, like, insecure little sad creatures.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like, praise them when they do a good job. And then, of course, if they start praising themselves, you can remind them to let
not do
another
that.
praise you and
Not
not
your
your
own
lips.
outfit. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, if you know your son is studying hard in second grade and he got a good grade on his spelling test, just say,
You're
you know
so
what
smart.
I love about
Yeah.
you? I love how you are really focused when you know that something is coming tomorrow. You know, like,
Yeah.
whatever. Find something and admire it.
Yes, locate it and then do it.
And admire it.
And
Because
then-
it's just so
And don't
healthy.
allow, like, don't let your children set the tone in your home. Like, don't let just, I think that this happens a lot when you have, like, well, like, I have 2 little boys right now. They're not that close together, but don't let their, like, the wrestling, like, there's a really good side of that kind of, like, just fun playfulness of little boys. But don't let them become the people that don't stand tall, like, where you're just like, oh, you're just the jokers, you're the roughhousers, you're the, you know what I mean, like, where you don't make them, I don't know if that really makes sense, but what I'm talking about is you do want to respect them out of the current phases that they are in. Like,
Sure.
You admire what they're doing,
But
and
you don't belittle them out of it.
No.
That's the thing.
No, you admire their work. And I told Shad the other day, because he had this, like, sudden moment where his drawing just totally, like,
Yeah.
it was like he had a mental breakthrough that he could draw what he wanted to. Like, it was
Yeah.
very funny. And it just zoomed out where all of a sudden he hadn't really been drawing things, and then all of a sudden pages upon pages of detailed things.
Yeah.
Like, tons is happening here. It's a whole story. He has the whole plan. And I told him, I was like, Shad, I love how your drawings have changed. Like, I was like, this is super cool what you've been doing here. And he said, thanks, Mom. I've really been studying. And I was like, he's 5. You know, it was like, I've really been studying up on that. But the thing is that was a funny subject, but it wasn't untrue. He'd been looking at pictures.
Yeah.
He'd been looking at books of how to draw something, and then he did it. And then I told him, good job. And he actually had something that it was like, I've been working on that.
The thing is girls obviously need this too. It's not like only the boys need it, but I think girls also need love and security, and I think that it's just a slightly different focus. You should be pouring just as much into the girls, but it's a slightly different kind of fuel.
I think especially when you notice, I think that, yes, I think both of these things, I mean, you do that all the time with both of them, but when you notice one of your kids being needy in some way, it is different for a son. Does not so much probably need you to pour on the affection so much as he needs you to pour on some respect. Like, he's seeming needy right now. This is probably what we're short
on. And we always, in our family, you know, we always referred to it as somebody's low tanked, right?
Yeah.
Their tank is running low, and you got to fuel them up. And so for a little girl, if you start noticing that they're being, lots of times I think the indicators of a kid being low tanked is they just start getting kind of obnoxious. And I think this is something that humans in general, we basically have this superpower where the thing that we desperately need, we gear our behavior in such a way that is calculated to ensure that we get the opposite. So it's like when we want love,
I don't know,
become
if you think
so like obnoxiously needy that nobody wants to give us love.
Well, you think, like, really from a strategic standpoint, if you were like, how could I get my husband to give me a lot of affection right now? You're like, you know what would be awesome? Why don't I snot cry and accuse him of everything? And that will totally inspire it.
Yep,
that will make
that'll
it be
do
like, I love to spend time with you.
I know.
Like, but how often is that what women actually do? Oh, all the time. You don't even care about me. You're not even. That's like the default mode. But you're
Right.
like, what I need is for my husband to give me
love.
And so what I'm going to do is demand it in the most unseemly
Unlovely way
ways ever.
possible.
Yeah.
But-
And the opposite is true of men do the same thing. Like, when they really desperately need respect, they can act less respectable than they would at other times.
And women will get as unlovely as can be.
I want to say as an aside that we've talked before about noticing these things in yourself, but I can't say really too many good things about the practice in marriage of being honest about your own feelings.
Yeah.
Not in the level that everyone will tell you to, which is go tell your husband you're just neglecting me. But on the level, go a level deeper. And sometimes I will tell Luke, I will say something. It sounds so hilarious to say this, but it's like, just a heads up that I'm feeling really stupidly emotional right now, and I think that I just need to talk with you about something. Like instead of doing the drama act out, instead of doing that, when you feel it coming on, say
it calmly.
You know what? I think I'm struggling with this. Could you help me with this? Instead of instead of launching warfare
to
about
just
something.
say, like, here's the thing. I think I'm feeling super needy right now, and I think I could really use a bit of a tank up.
Yeah, like, actually,
Yeah.
could you tell me, yes, instead of doing the thing that is like, maybe
Pick a
he'll
fight.
notice, why don't I slam a door and huff off to my room and then sit there waiting to deliver him the news that he's been neglecting me? It's like, why do you do this? Because all you're doing is adding a whole bunch of things that you'll have to repent of.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, what makes it so much better.
I think women do tend to, they pick a fight just to see what will happen.
They pick a fight because they wanted to see how far he will go for them when they're being unseemly.
Because
Then they get mad at people. I mean, it's not okay.
It's not good. But I do
No.
think that also humans, the other thing we do is we are capable of getting an exquisite pleasure out of being unhappy. And of, you know what I mean? Where there's like some part of you that really wants him to say the unkind thing. Because, you know, I think that's why women pick a fight. Like they pick a fight so that they can then be even more victimized than they were a minute ago.
I will say nothing is more unsatisfying than picking a dramatic fight with a man who's behaving himself well, because thank the Lord for a husband who does not fling his hat into the ring if I
It's like, I threw down the gauntlet, you didn't pick it up.
Snap. Now the only thing that's going to have to happen is me repenting and
I know.
coming.
But the point is, though, is I think that people, when they start acting out or being obnoxious, oftentimes that is a symptom of a low tank.
Yes.
And in the same way that if you notice that one of your kids was sort of flushed and fevery, you would have them lay down and you would go get them a Tylenol or a Sprite or something.
And notice it in yourself, because one of the things that I think is so funny about it is that you can, sometimes women just think, I'm having a problem. And so they start a fight thinking they'll find the solution once they get going. It's probably in there somewhere.
I'm
Instead
gonna
of saying,
keep
I'm
churning
actually,
around here.
something is bothering me and I'm not sure what. Would you be willing to talk with me about this? Or can I give you a heads up that I'm feeling a little on the wobbles of life?
But see, I just think, like, with the kids, if you notice the symptoms, pour on the love and the respect. Both. I mean, boys and girls need both, but I do think the emphasis is different. And I think sometimes it's very surprising how much just that will fix it. It's sort of...
When we talk about respect, I say this, I probably said it on the podcast. When we talk about respect, that oftentimes women think that they can't be bothered to respect a husband for something that's not magnificent, right? And so they're like, unless he did something truly outstanding, it would be really weird of me to say that I respect him.
To respect him, yeah.
And so when you say things like, no, there is literally no way that you don't have something that you could be respecting about your husband. When you give the examples, people can snort to themselves. Like, I thank you so much for always just taking the garbage out for me without discussing it.
That you keep the car
That's so kind.
sorted out, and I never have to worry about changing the oil.
Right, or like, thank you so much for caring for me enough to always be the person who gets up when there's a noise in the night.
Yeah,
right?
I love that our gutters are clean.
Yeah, oh, did you say that because you're looking at our gutters? They're not clean.
Bulletin, guys.
Bulletin. Word to the jinx.
I don't see anything in your gutters.
Oh, our
really.
gutters are always full
Anyway,
of stuff. 'Cause we
I'm
have
just
trees.
saying.
The point is,
We actually have maple trees growing in ours, so I don't.
the point that I was trying to say though about this is that we don't have the same problem with petty things when it goes the other way. If your husband says, "You know what I love the face you make right before you start laughing about something." What do we think that indicates?
It's like, why did you bother telling me
oh
that?
my word, come back when you have something real to say. Like, would you do that? Like, no. Like, if he was like, I love seeing you talking to your mom, how you do whatever.
Even if it's like, I love it when you make this for dinner. We would be like, oh, do you?
Do you?
That's fun.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah.
Any other things you can
Pile
think of that
that
you
on.
love? Like, it's so intuitive to us when it comes that way. That seems just incredibly attentive and affectionate and kind.
Yeah.
But we don't want to bother doing it the other direction. Like, why would I even stoop to the level of talking about the garbage or something? It's like, so basically what I'm saying is,
you can
do
find
unto
something,
others.
guys.
Yeah,
You
like
can
do
find
unto
something.
others. Go that way and respect for the little
And
things.
just give it to your boys. Like, seriously, give it to the boys. And if you notice, I think sometimes when there can be interpersonal problems amongst the children that basically are caused by the fact that they desperately need more love or more respect from mom and dad. So it's like when girls get like really competitive with each other, or the boys
the
are
feeling that there's not
constantly
enough to go
scrapping.
around.
Yeah,
Mom
like,
and dad
what are
only
they-
love one of us.
What
at
are
a
they
time.
competing for? You know, and of course there's just basic envy and stuff. I'm not saying that kids are immune to that, but if you are keeping everybody in your family tanked up and topped off with that,
to the best of your ability.
to the best of your
It
ability,
will be a much more chill place.
Yeah, it really will.
One thing that I think is worth saying, I don't even know the profile of our listeners, but one thing I think is really valuable is we do make our daughters also would need to be respectful of their brothers. Like with this, just for a life habit. It's different than the way that I would. It's not like we expect our daughters to treat their brothers like we want them to treat their future husbands or something. No. It's a different relationship.
And we don't.
But we want them to be
like,
respectful. Like
you don't run
disrespect
down your brother.
him. You don't run him down.
You don't tell embarrassing stories.
And the same way, the other way,
Yes.
the boys need to love their sisters in a kind, sacrificial kind of a way. Like this is a life pattern for how you should behave.
But just
at
to
the
insert,
same time,
we don't say that the girls need to serve the boys. That's another problem that we don't get into.
No, we don't do that one.
We don't go there.
We try to. I don't feel like I've dodged that bullet because I don't feel like
but
we
there are
almost were
there
going
definitely are people where it's like,
yes, that's weird.
If the boy drops something on the floor, it's
no,
the girl
my
that has to
word,
go pick it
no
up.
Heavens, no.
1,000 times no.
And actually, I say we're really strong. When I say strong, I mean we are hardcore on submission and respect and authority structures. But if you come to one of our family dinners, one of the most noticeable things is probably that the husbands are all helping the kids, serving the kids food and helping with things, and I think that's the back of church all the time is a lot of dads holding infants. Like the dads actually outnumber the wives by quite a. I mean, typically, I don't know. It's not. It's just it's often the person standing in the back with the baby is the dad. Like standing back there. So we do not have a culture where the women are subservient in a weird way. Like that's just not what's happening. So, but the thing I was going to say that I think is still super valuable is that while we want our daughters to be respectful of their brothers, and we want them to be respectful of their dad and other, like because we're a close family, guy cousins and people who are around, we want them to be respectful and we want them to be loving, because that's a thing that we would endorse. That's one of the things I'm really thrilled about our kids growing up in a broader community, is that it's very good for our daughters to also be around boys that they have no obligation to respect. Beyond basic human charity.
Yeah, Christian charity.
Yes, beyond that being around boys that they do neither respect nor plan to respect. Like that this is not part of it. And it's so good for your boys to not be raised in a weird bubble where the girls who are around them ever all owe them respect, because they need to experience life with people who owe you nothing. Like that that this is something that is for specific relationships, not something that's automatic or that they deserve it intrinsically
because of their gender.
Because because I'm a boy, you must speak respectfully of me.
No,
that is not like That's just not even on the
It's one of our peeves.
not even on the docket of
Yeah.
things that might
But
happen.
I do think, back to the kids thing though, I just think like if you have a kid like small, I'm talking about like little, small children. If you've got one who's just really being difficult in some way, I think this is the first place to look.
Yes.
Like,
I was going to say one other place to look is, how we say our kids reflect us all the time? Like they're always mirroring their parents. My husband has this theory. He's like, but that feeling when you see yourself in, he said, the thing is they're almost always mirroring things that are going on with their parents. But there's a good portion of the time that they're mirroring something that even you are not really aware is going on with you. He said, because it's kind of like that angle that is super unflattering that caught you from, like, that you were not posing. You were not posing for this mirror shot. This was an accidental sighting of the cellulite on the back of your legs.
or you accidentally turn on the selfie mode when you didn't.
Exactly that. When you go to take a picture, usually of something on the ground. And so you're like sucking your double chin in real bad or something, and then you see yourself. He said a lot of the time we don't recognize it as us because it's not a part of us that we wanted to see. We're not recognizing this as being, that's probably
because
me.
I do think sometimes you can parent a kid well until the moment when the child's sin bumps up against your sin.
Yeah, and
And
then
then
no
it's
tolerance.
like, and that, well, the question is then, I think for parents, when they hit that moment, the kid's sin has bumped it up against mine.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like, well, which one of us
has to repent first.
Going to repent first? And so lots of times the parents will refuse to give up their sin, whether it's anger or selfishness or, whatever the little sin is that this kid is poking on that thing.
Oh man,
and
they
it's like,
do. They find those
they find
spots.
it, and it's like, are you willing to give it up for obviously for Christ and for, God told you to, but will you give it up for your child, or will you say, no, this is untouchable, this stays here? And then I just lost an earring with,
it just sort of gracefully came out.
There was no precedent for that. It just came out.
Yeah, no, but you're thinking that there's times where your personalities collide.
Your personalities collide, and then the question is, are you going to cling on to the thing that's dear to you, or are you going to lay it down for your child? And I think that when you pick yourself over your kid in that way, you are setting something in the concrete with your child.
Oh my word, yes.
And so then it's unsurprising.
It's not my life for yours, it's your life for mine.
Right. And I think that sometimes that's the case when you have families where it's like everybody turned out except for that one kid.
Oh,
and it's always was that the kid that the parents were not willing to go quite that far, maybe?
Or sometimes it's just they just were a kid who felt really off from the beginning, and where it's hard
not
to connect with them, or they don't.
But that's what I mean. Like sometimes your kids are very like you, and you understand them, and then there's one who's just a totally different creature,
right?
And then, but God is calling you to stretch yourself.
Oh yeah.
You bend. You be willing to lay stuff down. And if you won't, that's the thing, is I think that you are setting things into the foundation of that child.
Of their life, yeah.
That is going to be damaging. But look, we're a ways in. We should talk about a tip.
Oh, we're going to do Christmas tips, right? Christmas food. Do Christmas food.
Christmas food.
Well, we got to get psyched up.
Yeah, we got to get
Somebody,
psyched up.
did I talk about Danishes last time? Because somebody asked me for a Danish recipe.
You said you do it on Christmas morning. So
yeah.
Talk for a moment
about Danishes.
Well, about a Christmas food.
Oh, I'll tell you about the buche de Noel.
Yeah, talk about the buche.
The buche. So way back,
I think we maybe talked about the buche.
We might have talked about my original buche de Noel, the first one from high school that I was so ashamed of, straight out of the Julia Child, and it probably was cool. I was taking a cooking class with this woman. And she was like, this is a great dessert to do because we cover all of these different things. Because it was like the sponge cake, the roll-up cake, plus like a chocolate mousse for the inside, plus like a frosting for the thing, plus meringue mushrooms, plus spun sugar for caramel moss.
Mm-hmm. It was all of it.
It was all of it. but I was so ashamed of it. I did not catch the vision of the buche de Noel, and I was probably a little.
I thought it was rad. I remember at the time.
Well, I remember it as how we had to put it on a foil-lined cookie sheet.
Well, this was probably deep in your phase where foil was also off limits to you.
But no, I was like younger than that. I was not. It was early on my cooking scene. And anyways, I remember just feeling sheepish of the whole thing, that it was the buche de Noel, but it was nonetheless a cool thing that I learned how to do. Well, years go by without me revisiting the buche concept. That I thought that kind of got associated in my mind with something I wasn't aiming for. And then we've had years where Christmas dessert was just not settled. Like, we have like a Christmas where we're like trying to decide Christmas dinner menu. Yeah. And we've gone through there was a phase where we went for trifles. There was like that delicious gingerbread with the drambuie, and that was good. Yeah. That was good. We should do that again sometime. I don't remember that one. There were a number of different things that we would try. Or like, what if we really decorated Christmas cookies or something? But the problem with Christmas dessert, this is my problem, maybe nobody else has this problem, is that by the time we get to it, we are so totally treated out of our brains, because we start with Danishes. I mean, and that's not even if you skip the whole Christmas season and Christmas Eve, we're still starting with Danishes, then we have a big brunch, then you're still having a real celebratory day. Right. So by the time you get through dinner and you're hitting dessert, you're kind of over it. Mm-hmm. You know, like, you're not really being like, I can't even wait for dessert. There's not a time when you're anticipating it like that. And so I realized that this has been our problem. When you have, like, beautiful sugar cookies, nobody's really dying to eat them. But I revisited last year the buche de Noel. Yeah, it was amazing. And I made a new one that was a flourless chocolate buche de Noel with a chocolate whipped cream. It was actually filling, so it was actually very light. It was very not like a really heavy dessert. But it looks awesome because it looks like a big Yule log. That's what it is. It looks like a big log with like a branch, and I made all these meringue mushrooms all around it. But the thing that thrilled me is it was like I finally got the thing that will be Christmas dessert, because it's all about the showmanship. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to do. It's achievable. But the showmanship brings a level of like, this is a high feast. Like, there's no other time that we would be making a buche de Noel for dessert. No other time. And so it is a really fun, like, that's the thing that we do now. Like, but it took years and years of chipping through all kinds of different things to settle in on what made sense for us. Yeah. So now you tell us about some kind of Christmas food.
Oh, we've got a number of different things, but Christmas breakfast, we always go over to Mom's house mid-morning for a big, cousin Christmas party. But we always get up and do our own Merkel Christmas thing, where we get up early and do it. And so that one, I always trot out that coffee cake. Yeah. From our
raspberry
youth.
Coffee cake.
Raspberry coffee cake. And it's a dough that you kind of like, it's kind of moist. It's not like a bready dough. It's more like a biscuity dough. And it's a little bit wet. And you pat it out, and then you put jam down the middle.
It has like cream cheese in it, right? It's like butter and cream
cheese and flour and buttermilk, I think. And then you just cut slices down the side, and you fold them over in this like funny little braid, kind of. Yeah, it's like a Danish. It's like a quick bread kind of a Danish, I guess. Yeah. But
well, I mean, the shape is supposed to look like a Danish.
Yeah. So anyway, I always pull that one out, and so that one's kind of like funny and nostalgic, even though we'd never eat it any other time of year ever.
Didn't you find that because when Mom got into that, we lived on Harrison, didn't we, when she got that recipe? Or maybe she just was still making it then, but she had that little pitcher, like a little cut glass pitcher that she always makes the frosting in. And you found one, didn't you find one at Goodwill or something that was the same?
I have the original one, and then I found a different one. But
But I love that because that was so associated with powdered sugar frosting on raspberry like glorious moments of coffee cake. Yeah. This is also why my sugar jar is one of those pickle jars. Because growing up, Mom always had I know. Well, no, it's not right now, but I have the pickle jar.
Well, so anyway, we do that on Christmas morning, and I've had a whole series of phases I've gone through. Probably my favorite, though, was when we lived in England, and I decided that because we lived in England, I was going to cook a goose for Christmas dinner, and I did that thing, and that was intense. And I've never revisited the goose. It was a real whirlwind of a thing to do. But then, but one thing that I did love about it was learning to do the potatoes in the goose grease, and that was insanely good. It was really good. It would be worth cooking a goose just to get back. Because in England, you can go and buy tins of goose grease, which is an insane thing when you think about it.
Gotta be eating enough
here
geese.
You cannot
That
buy
is
that.
odd, because do they sell lots of interesting birds? Like, can you just buy pheasants?
Well, you just buy
or
little
something?
cans of, like, it's prepackaged cans of goose grease.
Right, I know, but I meant
in order to make the potatoes. You know, like, it's kind of, there would be like pyramids of them at the grocery store.
Interesting.
Goose
Nice.
grease cans, yeah. Bacon grease, I'll be real. Bacon grease does admirably for that purpose.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah. If you cook
anyway.
potatoes in bacon grease, you're on the right path.
it's good. It's just so much better. It actually does.
I don't do it, but I probably should. That
It's
reminds
like-
me. One of my quickest fall dinners that is a fallback
Yeah.
autumn dinner is the roasting a big sheet pan full of cubed potatoes, like just dice up potatoes.
Yeah.
And I'll throw in peppers sometimes if I have them, or an
Yeah.
onion, and I toss it all with olive oil and salt and pepper and just roast a huge sheet pan of them. And then when I think they're about 10 or less minutes out from being done, I'll lengthwise split a bunch of like chorizo sausages
Yeah.
and lay them open all over the top of it, and I flip them once so they get like, and then I usually saute like a purple cabbage on the stove.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds
So if I do purple
amazing.
cabbage, I splash some apple cider vinegar in it and a little bit of brown sugar and then salt and pepper,
Dang.
and saute it in butter because the butter makes it tender. And anyways, it's a beautiful plate of like the fastest fall dinner known to man.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, it's
And
all
if you,
very doable.
Do you use Basque chorizo?
Yeah, I buy that
Oh,
Idaho Basque
that
chorizo.
would
That
be
Falls,
so
you know
good.
that stuff at Winkle, the Falls brand
Oh,
chorizo?
I buy it all the time. I love
Yeah,
that stuff.
I like that stuff. So anyways, and it's like red. So because it's kind of a red
And
sausage,
it's
and then you
pre-cooked,
have
so you
the...
don't have to worry about it
Yeah,
being raw. You just
yeah.
want to get it caramelized.
So you have the potatoes with onions, like I do red onion, so it's like red onion and Yukon Gold potatoes, and then like a bell pepper if I have it. I don't usually have that though. And then the red
That sounds
chorizo, and
amazing.
then the purple cabbage. It makes it really fun. It's like hot, filling, delicious.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah. So
Well, I should go make that, except for I don't have any of the ingredients.
snap.
I know.
Better
We'll
luck
see.
next time.
But I
Well,
have to go take people to volleyball. So
Thank you all for coming.
everyone, we'll catch you on the
Till
rebound.
we meet again. Fare thee well.
Bye.
New St. Andrews College thanks you for listening.